Hello, fourth grade, back again. This is part 2 of our Tuesday lesson, 7.6, which starts on page 301 in your textbook. We are going to start off with page 303, which we've already done some of this. Now remember, just as a refresher, again, some of you may have been watching, you may have watched the first video and then watched the second video right after. Some of you watched the first video, gave yourself some time, and then came back to the second video. Whatever works for you is fine. I had told you in the beginning this lesson is there's a lot of information. So please don't worry about this. We're just introducing it. Don't feel like you have to master this stuff at this point, okay? All right. We had been learning how to change mixed numbers, which we know are a whole number and a fraction, to a improper fraction. Now in the book they call it a fraction. Yeah, it's true, it is a fraction, but I want you guys to get familiar with the fact that it's an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. So we had already done these, okay? Where we were left off is trying to convert improper fractions into mixed numbers. And we kind of already did that in some of our work here, and I erased it. I probably shouldn't have erased it. When we did this lesson here, okay, or this part of the lesson, where we converted 7/3 into a new fraction that was an improper fraction, and I think the answer was 2 1/3, I believe. So that's the way to convert a improper fraction, remember, numerator larger than denominator, into a mixed number where you have a big number like a whole number and a little fraction next to it. That's using a model. Well, we learned how to change mixed numbers to improper. I'm just going to briefly go over that because I know you guys got this. For number 8, I'm just going to redo that problem. 2 7/10. We learned that the steps to change a mixed number to an improper fraction is take your denominator, multiply it by your whole number, add your numerator. So my new improper fraction is going to be 10 times 2 is 20. 20 plus 7 is 27, and your denominator stays the same. Okay, so that's what we learned in the last video. Now I'm going to throw something new at you. You are going to be learning how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number. Notice, improper, numerator is larger than the denominator. Okay, I'm going to work on my whiteboard, but I'm going to be doing 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so you can be writing those answers on your in your book. Okay, if I have an improper fraction, again, this is number 5. Okay, I don't want to take the time to model and to draw all of this stuff out. There's a much easier way to figure this out. I talked about this before. This looks like a fraction where you have a numerator and a denominator. This is also the operation of division. And you may be going, wait a minute, I don't see a division sign anywhere here. You're right, you don't. But if I have a fraction, I can change that to a division problem. The way the division problem works is your numerator becomes your divisor. That is the number inside the house. We've talked about that often. Your denominator becomes your divisor. That's the number outside the house. Remember, it can also be written like this. Okay. Now, if I skip over to this side, if I want to do division, I can't use a basic fact necessarily because 4 times something doesn't equal 11. That's why I want to use it in this form, because we're going to do a little bit of the longer division where we show step by step, where we subtract, where we do our please, no, I'm sorry, where we do our does McDonald's serve burgers raw? I don't know if you guys remember that from your toolbox. So we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, and then depending on what the subtraction is, excuse me, depending on what the subtraction is, we're going to see if we're going to have a remainder. Okay, so I'm going to use this method here. 4 times something doesn't equal 1. So we have to look at 11. 4 times what gets me close to 11, but I cannot go over 11? And it is 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. If I tried 3, then that would be 4 times 3 equals 12. Well, that's too much. I can't use that. So I did my division. 11 divided by 4 is 2. Now do your multiplication. 2 times 4 is 8. My next step is subtraction. So 11 subtract 8, you get 3. I'm going to stop there. Now this, stay with me because it gets real tricky. People get very confused on this. What I did here, this division, I have created a new mixed number that 11 over 4 is equivalent to. Your whole number. Now remember, we're changing an improper to a whole. So I know I have to have a big number and then a little fraction next to it. My whole number is my quotient. My quotient is the guy on top of the house. It's the answer, the number on top. So my new whole number is 2. My new numerator is whatever is left over, your remainder. So 3. And where do I get my denominator from? No idea. Well, you know what? The denominator does not change. It's also the same as your divisor. So your new denominator is 2 3/4. Let me show you something. This is pretty cool. Okay, what I'm telling you is 11/4 is equivalent to 2 3/4. Well, I'm sorry, these don't look anything like each other. Well, yeah, the 4 is the same, but everything else, it doesn't look like each other at all. Let's work backward. You already know how to solve changing a mixed number to an improper fraction. Let's try that. Remember from the last video, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Your denominator stays the same. Well, look at that. Aren't they the same? They sure are. So you're working back and forth, and you're going to end up with the same answers one way or the other. So hopefully that is making sense to you. If not, let's practice a couple more, okay? So if you want, you can go ahead and write the answer here for number 5. Your new answer is going to be 2 3/4. Okay? Again, if you need to pause and go back and look at the video, please do that. I have no problem with you guys doing that, okay? We're all learning together and it's not a problem. Okay, 6/5. I want to change that to an to a mixed number. Again, let's go back. This looks like a fraction, but I'm going to change it to a division problem. Your numerator, guys, always goes inside the house. Your denominator always goes outside. Dividend, divisor. This is probably where people make the biggest mistake. They change it. They put the 5 inside, the 6 outside. Completely different answer if you do that. Okay, let's do division. 5 times 1 gets me as close as I can get. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract. Again, take your time in figuring out where do these numbers go. the number on top of the house, that's your quotient. That is your whole number. Your remainder is your numerator. Look at what I just did. Your remainder is your numerator, sorry. Your denominator doesn't change. It stays 5. So you can either go, okay, it's going to stay the same, or you can say, oh, this is my new denominator, which it's actually really not new because you actually had that to begin with. So you changed 6/5 to 1 1/5. You are changing from improper to mixed. Okay. And you can put that answer in your book. Let's look at the next one, number 7. This was 6. 13/10. Once you guys get this down, it's going to be so easy for you, I promise. Once you understand what to do, it's going to be good. Okay. Again, make sure you set it up correctly. 13 is my dividend. 10 is my divisor. 10 goes into 13 one time. Again, this is the tricky part. 1 3/10. 1 is my whole number. 3 is my new numerator. Your denominator does not change. It stays 10. So you guys have just learned how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number without using models or number lines or anything like that. You are doing this mathematically. So this is your number, or your answer for number 7. Please try. I would like for you guys on our system to pause the video and do 11 through 13, and then come on back and check. If you need to go back and rewatch the video, there is no problem with that. Please feel free to do that, guys. Okay. Hopefully you're back. 11. I'm going to set up my problem like this. 5 goes into 9 one time. That's as close as I can get. My answer should be 1 4/5. Just to give you guys a heads up, probably the biggest place where errors are made, the kids normally do the division correctly, but they don't know what goes where. I always start with my whole number. The whole number is always going to be on top of the house. That's your quotient. That's always going to be your big number. And then I think to myself, well, the denominator doesn't change at all. So I know the denominator is going to be 5. So the only thing left over is 4 as your new numerator. 12, 11/10. Oh, I didn't write the fraction up there. Sorry. Oh, well. Okay, so 10 divided into 11. One time. 10. Subtract. My new mixed number is going to be 1 1/10. And for 13, finally, 12/2. I'm going to change that to a division problem. Okay, don't get tripped up on this one, guys. I have been telling you that when you change this to a mixed number, your number on top of the house, your quotient, is your mixed. That is correct. Your whatever your remainder is becomes your new numerator. Your denominator stays the same. This is an interesting situation. Your answer is actually 6. Whenever you have a fraction with a 0 as your numerator, this is nothing. That doesn't even exist. So your answer is just 6. Now, if you had 1 over 2, yes, then that would count as something. Then it would be 6 and 1 over 2, 1/2. But if you have a 0 in the place of the numerator, you're done. This any fraction with a 0 in the place of a numerator is equivalent to nothing. So my answer here is simply 6. Okay, so I hope that helped. It was a lot of information today, guys, and I really appreciate how hard you're working. We are not going to do a practice book page on this because we did a lot of work on this, and then you guys were also doing your mid-chapter checkpoint. So again, make sure to complete the mid-chapter checkpoint and get that submitted to me, and tomorrow we will move on to lesson 7.7. Okay, great job today, guys. Lots of information. Don't get overwhelmed. If you feel like, oh, I kind of got it, but I don't really have it, don't worry. We are going to be working on this a lot, okay? All right, blessings to you all, and we'll talk tomorrow. Sacred Heart of Jesus, pray for us.